Hello world and welcome to the Wolf's Den today. Today we have Mr. Asif Illyas in the house. How are you today, sir?
Pretty good, thanks, yeah.
Excellent.
Great to be here.
So good to have you here. We've been trying to do this now for, I don't
it's a
know, it
long
seems
time.
like about 100 years. But now, for those of you who don't know who Asif is, Asif was originally in a band called Mir with your brother, and that was Shabab.
Yeah.
And you guys won a couple of, or you won a Juno?
No, well, we never got nominated for Juno. We never made it up that far in the Canadian ladder. But ECMAs, we had
Like
33 nominations.
Yeah.
Well, actually, that includes the Big Picture, which was the band I was in before Mir. My brother and I were both in that band too. We formed Mir in 1997 with Adam Dowling from Charlottetown, and he was playing with Ashley McIsaac. He was his drummer for the whole Ashley craziness.
Wow.
And so then he came on board then, and it was about a 11 year run. So most of the stuff we did was actually in Germany. But the ECMAs were the top of the awards thing. We did get a really nice award for putting on that Tsunami concert.
I was just about to ask you that. Now, Asif, originally you weren't born in Canada.
No, I was born in Sri Lanka.
Okay, yeah. And you and your family, you kept your contact back there.
Yeah, I was born there. My brother as well, and our younger brother. There's three of us, and I think we left in 1976. I think it was just shy of 4 years old.
Okay.
And then went to England, and then we were in England for about 7 years, and then came right to Halifax. So we had our grandparents were there, and family was back there. We had some family in England, but we came. My parents brought us here with the first of our DNA, I guess, to be in Halifax and be in Canada. So I would consider myself a Halifax guy.
You're a Haligonian.
Haligonian, because it's there are people who are from Canada who are born here who know more about Sri Lanka than I do.
Yes.
But it's a little island just south coast of India. It's its own country, but it's got a lot of the same island vibe. It's sort of detached. It's like the Ireland of England, or the Newfoundland of Canada.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So there's a lot. It's a really there's a lot of. It's a melting pot of cultures, and the music is different to India. It's really. There was a lot of cool cultural stuff that I never I was very proud of. The food's amazing.
Yes.
It's a cross between Thai and Indian.
Yeah, no, that would be something for the palate. I could handle that. I need to go with somebody that knows how to eat all this food, because I don't eat a whole lot of it and I never know what to order.
Right.
But now, so you guys did do a big benefit after the tsunami, right?
Yeah, well, I mean that was in 2000, the tsunami of 2004. I mean, we all woke up on Boxing Day there and saw the insanity that was happening. About a few days after, I mean, everyone was reeling. The numbers were coming in, like the 300,000 people just swept away. In the very, very end of January, I was having lunch with the boys in the band, Shahab and Adam, and Jeff DeYoung, who was at the CBC at the time, I believe. And we happened to be having lunch at the Economy Shoe Shop. And we were talking, we got to do something. We got to put on a concert. Got to figure something out.
Yeah.
Because everyone was sending, donations and whatever. And we knew the music community here was just awesome at getting together and figuring things out. So we were kind of batting around ideas, the old QEH, Queen Elizabeth High School auditorium. We happened to be, very fortunately, the table next to us were three of the top city officials. One guy, Dan English, I believe his name was. Yeah. And then a guy who was part of the Metro Center, and they were overhearing us. They just overheard us talking about it, and he said, one of them, I can't remember which one, he said, "Do you mind? I'm sorry to butt in, but we were just overhearing. Hope you don't mind. We were listening on a conversation. You guys are looking for a place. How would you like the Metro Center?" And we sort of was like, "What are you talking about?" And then Jeff said, "Let's pull these tables together." And then in 6 days, with the most outstanding generosity of all the musicians, the bands, tour tech, in 6 days we had a sold out 10,000 person attendance concert, and we raised $218,000. So it was 109, and then the government happened to be matching dollar for dollar. So
right on.
So yeah, and then as a result of that, we got asked to be on the national one. So we played a song there. We were just a little old band from Halifax with Oscar Peterson and the Bare Naked Ladies and Bryan Adams and Celine Dion. They were all there, and that was a very it was a bittersweet way of getting to that scene, really. But just having but it was incredible. The vibe here was outstanding. So.
We talk about this on the Wolf's Den all the time about the collaborative inflow that goes on here in the Maritimes. I mean, you know yourself, if you've got a project that you've got in your head and you need something, that you can go to your phone and make a phone call and it'll happen. Yeah,
it's always been that way. I mean, ever since I can remember, there's been a really good sort of communal, like everybody sort of pushing each other up there. I mean, it sometimes breaks into little scenes. That's sometimes frustrating, but that happens in every city. But I think that from that one concert's an example. We had a simple idea, and literally everyone was calling. I remember Andre Bourgeois, our manager at the time, he had to change his voicemail saying, "You know what? If you're calling to get on the show, thank you so much, but we are full." Yeah. Because it was just literally like 10 bands an hour.
And what a terrible problem to have.
Yeah, I know. It's the cool thing about that concert was that we had gone through all the big. We had to figure out who to send the money, like who to give the money to. And of course, all the big NGOs were the Red Cross and UNICEF and all that. But we wanted to choose someone smaller because they were already getting so much. So we ended up choosing Doctors Without Borders. And when we called them, they said, and this was super surprising. They said, "Look, we are good. We have enough. We can't distribute anymore." And I think that was a very that's a testament to the type of organization they are. Yeah. They weren't going to take it and just burn and buy new stuff. And unfortunately, though, when we went a year later with CBC I was happening to go on a trip to Sri Lanka to see her grandmother. So Jeff Dion and a camera, a guy who actually was a good friend of mine I've done a lot of film work with, is Rohan Fernando. He came down and filmed us going down the coast to see where the money from all the people, where it went. Yeah. And that was probably one of the most disheartening trips I've ever been on.
Yeah, so, I look at Haiti, and I feel the same way. Just hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, and the people are still starving, and nothing's been rebuilt. Really, you know. We came.
There is a documentary that it went on CBC, and it's on YouTube now. It's called the Sri Lanka Diaries. If you look it up, you'll see me and my brother going and visiting stuff. It's kind of lower quality because it was long. Now you take for granted how fast the technology is getting up there. But
I mean, let's face it, in another 10 years, maybe professional photographers will still have cameras. Maybe.
Right. That's right.
I mean...
I know, the phones are now...
Yeah, and home phones.
Implants.
Yeah. Put your hand up and take a picture, Oh,
I know.
It's just getting crazy.
But, it's on there, and you can see it. It was crazy. There's stories of, like you said... hundreds of millions, really, at the time, sitting, gaining interest, of course.
Oh, of course.
And then corruption, finding a fishing village where there's a school from Lunenburg that had raised enough money, through bake sales and bottle drives and all of that, to buy a boat for this small little fishing village. Well, it got sent, but it got intercepted when it was being delivered. It got intercepted by a wealthy farmer who bought the boat off the police, or off the officials that were supposed to deliver it, and was renting it to the fisherman who was supposed to be given to. And then the fishermen were just like, we don't have it anymore. Why didn't you have it? And he said, they said, well, he decided he wanted to sell it, so he sold the boat. And the place so people were innocently and generously giving money to do something like that, and then it just goes into the system. And so it really was. So it came back with a bit of a, knowing that it kind of happens. So, but anyway, that was we used to do a lot of charity stuff like that. After that we started to get a little more careful about who we sent it to.
Well, at the end of the day, when you do something with your heart in the right place, it's on the people that get it after you.
Yeah.
And they're the ones that have to live with the consequences of their actions, not you.
Yeah, that's true.
You did what you thought was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And you did it with the intent to help the people that needed it.
Yeah, there's my father-in-law he's an engineer. He did a lot of projects around the world, and he had a good thing. He said, he asked the same questions of some of those in those poorer countries, and they said, well, look, this is the way things are, and they need to change, but if people stop giving, then even if only 25 or 30% gets to those people, if you stop giving, then nothing gets to them. That's exactly and that 25 or 30%. So anyway,
unless you can walk over there yourself.
Yeah. We ended up actually doing. We ended up finding some small little grassroots organizations that were going and basically helping people directly, and that's where we did our from that moment on, we refused to do to the large NGOs. We just said, that's good, that I'm sure they do great things, but we wanted, because everyone's coming and their hard-earned money here, and they're giving it. You want the biggest percentage to go.
Yeah, you want the money to go where you want it to go, not into some rich guy's pocket, but into some poor person's mouth.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, and on their back.
Yeah.
And over their head.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a little break right here. We're going to listen to some music right here on the Wolf's Den on CIOE 97.5, the home of East Coast music, and you can always also catch us on Hidden Gems Broadcasting. We'll be back in a minute after a couple of great tunes from Asif.
All we've got to do is talk about it. What's the use in trying to fight about it? Just a little faith will surely start it. If faith is what you need, I think I've got it. The fire's burning out and we should start it. We're a heartbeat away, a heartbeat away. I don't understand what is going on with you.
And we're back in the Wolf's Den, ladies and gentlemen. We've got Asif Illyas in the studio with us today from Mir, and we're going to talk a little bit in a bit about what he's got going on right now, which is kind of cool. So, Asif, we're talking about you and your brother and the tsunami and the monies and everything that you got there. Let's talk a little bit about Mir. Now, you originally started in 97, 98, in around there?
Yeah, just around, I think it was probably through 97. We had sort of satellited off big picture. Myself, my brother, Chris Church, who plays with Jesse Cook now. He's very successful doing that. And Julian Marentet, who actually lived right around the corner from here, which is kind of... And that's why I knew the address.
Oh, you know where you were coming.
Yeah, but so for a couple of years we did maybe about a year and a half. I had given a demo tape at an ECMAs to a gentleman by the name of Nick Eade, who was from the '80s super group Cutting Crew.
Cutting Crew. Oh yeah.
And he came and he was speaking at the ECMAs, and I gave him a CD of ours, a demo, and it was a huge pile of CDs in front of him, and I thought, well, whatever. Goodbye.
Yeah.
Really nice guy, very interesting. Loved the songs he wrote. I mean, Died in Your Arms, Been in Love Before. I mean, they were like songs of my youth, and it was neat to meet someone like that who'd basically been a number one on Billboard with a hit.
Yeah.
That's now it's played as much as any '80s hit.
Iconic
it's on the radio
tune.
all the time.
Iconic tune.
So anyway, I went about 6 months later, maybe, or I was visiting an old girlfriend who was working in Bath, England. And anyway, I was there, and I called home to my parents, just because you do when you're on a trip. And my mom said, "Yeah, this guy has called, and British guy." He wants you to call him, and it ended up being Nick, and he loved our stuff. We ended up becoming his band for a while,
wow.
And he came over. Actually, we ended up playing for him later, but he came over, and he took us under his wing. He took me under for songwriting support and production support, and we did some demos, and that's when Adam Dowling joined.
Okay.
And Julian and Chris moved on, and my brother and Adam and Shahab, and myself, did some demos with him, and then Mir, basically, we had been also Lenny Gallant's backing band. So the Lenny Gallant live CD is actually Mir, the band is us, with Chris Church, yeah.
Okay.
So it's myself, my brother, and Adam, and Chris Church, and Lenny. So that was a really fun time. Like, we got to see a lot of all the folk circuit and the Canadian, the stuff that Lenny basically is, the road warrior he is.
Yes, and he is a road warrior.
Yeah, and it was really amazing to be part of that, because Mir didn't really get to do that, like see the different parts of the folk festival or the folk pop festival, Sear Circuit. And then we were saving some money from doing that, from the coin that Lenny was giving us, and we squirreled away some bit to go to a studio. And a friend of ours had said, "Why are you going to go to a studio? Why don't you record it yourselves? You can get a computer, and you can these days." And this was probably like 1999, before anyone was really recording themselves. And we just said, "Really? Okay." And Mark Horton, who's now, I think he's still at Sonic Entertainment, but he said, "Yeah, I'll help you record. You can use Cubase, and you can do this." And Adam, who was really excited about that, so we learned how to do it. And that first album took a long, long time to record, because we were learning the software. And I'm really glad we did, because now that led me to what I'm doing now. And we were one of the first groups in Halifax, I think, at least one of the handful that recorded our own record, and that we did Invisible Science, which was the first album.
And that led on to, holy cow.
Yeah.
I'm looking here, and pretty much from 2001 to 2008.
Yeah,
there's
we got signed. Well, we did a record release at the Velvet Olive, which is a club that we used to play a lot. We called it our studio, our Star Club, like the Beatles played there 6 nights a week. I think we played at the Velvet Olive at least 4 or 5 nights a week. If it wasn't just me on the guitar, it was the band. And
Yeah.
anyway, we did a record release for Invisible Science there, and there was a gentleman by the name of Leonard Krogel. He was just he came in. He was a German fellow, and he kind of dabbled in the music industry a bit. And he was the only one. Well, one of the only ones. We had a little listening station set up to listen. He was just there with the headphones, probably listened to the whole record. Everyone else was enjoying my mom's Sri Lankan food, and drinking, and we played a set and stuff. But at the end of it, he says, "Can I take this? I'm going to Germany. I think I know someone who would really like it." And again, we said, "Sure,
Yeah, go ahead."
Yeah, and then but a few months later, he came back and he said, he gave me a call and he said, "I think I have someone we have a record company that might want to sign you, and it's a big one. It's East West Warner, which is a major label."
I guess.
So they flew over here and saw us at the Marquee, and then within a few weeks we had gotten a 5-album record deal with them, and it was a really amazing career sort of massaging record deal where they weren't expecting anything out of the gate, and they wanted to sort of put the album out, introduce the band like the old days when people they wouldn't just want like one single from you. They actually wanted to invest in the artistry of. So it was a dream come true. Unfortunately, fortunately there was a lot of things that happened that were incredible. We toured there 7 times, but our one big break, Invisible Science, the single was out and it was climbing the charts nicely. It was sort of entered in at like 130, and it was just about to break the top 100. They knew that if it got up into the 50s and 60s, that all the small stations would pick it up. So they booked us to do this really big TV festival where you play actually for 45 minutes, like you play a big concert. And some of the other, Dave Matthews was playing it, Sugar Ray, Travis, Uncle Cracker. There were some really big bands, and we were there, and they were pumping all this money into it. And we did this thing called the Mere Super Show, which we had extra players just other than the 3 of us. So they booked tickets for 11 or 12 of us to go and do a Mere Super Show on that show, because when you played that show, it was pretty much guaranteed that you would sell between 5 and 10,000 CDs the following day. It was like the equivalent of playing Letterman or the Tonight Show, right? Yeah. You play on there, and people are curious, and back when they go to the store and pick up the CD. So it was a good investment for them. Anyway, the long story short, the date of that concert was September 22nd, 2001. So if you can, yeah. So it was that Tuesday, 9/11. We watched everyone else watched the towers come down. And then the American bands all canceled, and we went. And then ever since then, it was a struggle because it was a big sort of cleaning shop for a lot of record companies around. And our A&R guy got moved to another division. Yeah. And we lost that guy who wanted us. So the new guy wanted us to have a single right away, and of course we were making a very artistic album, and so we did. We ended up playing some great stages, getting a really good following, opening up for some big names, but. It was funny. It's funny how you never know what can happen that's going to change the course of your bow.
And and it's funny too that you never think of an outside force. Yeah. Doing something like that.
That's right.
I mean, we don't think about catastrophic events happening, the next day to
right.
completely alter the way the world thinks.
Exactly.
And I mean, really and truly, like Asif, you couldn't have gotten a worse time
right.
for that to occur because, like you said, American bands, they dropped off.
Yeah, they dropped off. And when we went to Well, we actually, they said they were going to put the show on anyway, but when we went down and drove from the airport to it, it eventually got, like, at the very last minute, the day before, it got canceled. And so the record company had booked us, 10 or 20 radio interviews anyway, because that was part of the whole thing. But every single interview was about how was it for you and your brother to go through security? Because
my goodness,
obviously, brown skin, and so it was not the music anymore. It was about how we felt about
So
it.
Yeah. All right. You know what, Asif? Let's listen to a couple more songs here.
Sure.
On the Wolf's Den, right here on CIOE 97.5, the home of East Coast music, and also on Hidden Gems Broadcasting.
If you can see a sound, if you can hear a touch, when a scent recalls a memory, it's synesthesia. When the swaying of those trees sounds like a symphony, it's not mysterious, it's synesthesia. Can you taste the touch of summertime? Can you hear the cold of winter? Synesthesia. Nearing Lake Mackenzie, in the heart of Fraser Island, I can still hear the heat of 75 Mile Beach, where we felt the color of love along the shores of Australia. It was synesthesia. Synesthesia. Can you taste the touch of summertime? Can you hear the cold of winter? Synesthesia. Can you taste the touch of summertime? Can you hear the cold of winter? Synesthesia. Synesthesia. Yeah. Synesthesia. It's the crossing of the senses when the ears become the lenses, and all those rods and cones turn into microphones. Synesthesia.
Welcome back to the Wolf's Den, ladies and gentlemen. We got Asif in the studio with us today. Now, Asif, Mir had a really good run.
Yeah.
And then towards the end there, or after 9/11, things kind of went a little sideways over in Europe.
Yeah, well, it was funny because that was it was probably the real launch of Mir. I mean, we did another 2 albums and had a lot of good, like critical acclaim, I guess if you call it that. And we played a lot of tours in Germany, which was great. It was like how we really woodshed. Mir didn't stop for any internal reasons at all, other than the fact that it was just getting to the point where I think we were one of those bands that luckily got to experience the old music industry and the transition to this new digital streaming thing. And we were one of the bands that were firsthand seeing what the freak out that was going on with the record companies, because they were just panicking, like, what is going on here? Everyone's taking all the music for free. Nobody's worrying about albums anymore. Like, people are being signed just for one song. So it was just this real kind of panic mode, and that was stressful just to figure out what we were going to do. Early on, Andre, our manager, had told me, I'm very thankful that he did. We'd come home from a tour, and I had a chance to someone at Rohan Fernando, who's an accomplished filmmaker, and now he's an executive producer at National Film Board. Right. But he had asked me if I'd scored film, and I said, I don't know. I've never done it before, but I could try. And so we struck up a conversation, and I had to decide to stay home and do this film, or go on a Canadian leg of a tour, opening up for a band that was kind of on its way out. The agent was like, you have to do this. There's no way we can put your album out unless you go on this tour. Well, Andre said, look, I want these guys to be still playing music when they're 40.
Yay.
So I think they should stay home and do this score. Because we're going to lose $12,000 if we go on this tour, but we're going to make $6,000 if we stay here.
If we stay home, yeah.
And it was kind of like, well, that's weird. It was weird. It was the first time that, and I think we had always had a love for sort of creating music and recording it, and we're kind of too nerdy to be rock stars, really, So
I was going to say obvious until you put the nerdy part.
Yeah.
And so we did that, and we went on the tours, and increasingly when we went over to Germany, we went to a smaller label. They were struggling to, we were playing big shows like Rock am Ring, Rock am Park, which were, the headliners were Ozzy Osbourne and Ozfest, and Lenny Kravitz, and Groove Armada, and big names. And it was really incredible experience, but we'd always come back and see how much things were falling apart, like hearing about bands, like, and it was getting stressful. And because the first score I did won at the Atlantic Film Festival, people started calling, saying, oh, I hear you doing film work. So, and Adam was starting to sort of play a lot of session drums, and he was, I think, continued to play with Lenny Gallant for a while. And but really, we would have kept going, I think, if not for coming. I came back, and my wife was pregnant, so that was like, oh, okay. Now, that was another.
Yeah, now there's a whole new dynamics. It's not just
That's
you
right.
anymore.
How long have you been gone?
How long had? That's right. Oh, that's a good one. But so it was like about 2006, I think, and then we kept doing stuff. We did a few recordings. We played our first symphony show was actually our last show, and it was kind of the deciding factor. We'd done the Super Show. We knew a lot of people in the symphony, and Symphony Nova Scotia had always, I think, found us or assumed that we were too loud because we were a rock pop progressive band, right? But we put out this acoustic record, which was a very gentle kind of experimental thing, and I think that that was one of the factors. And we also did I written a song called "The Soldier's Carol," which was about
Beautiful
it was
song.
thanks. It was sort of a bittersweet song about the Christmas season and anyway that kind of perked their ear. And funnily, Adam had started to play with George Canyon, but he couldn't make that show. So Corey Tetford, I don't know if you know.
Yeah, I know Corey.
He played drums and sang, and the one show that we were kind of wanting to do our whole career, which was the Symphony Nova Scotia show, ended up being the last show because Adam was like, I can't miss out on this stuff anymore. So why don't we just press pause? And I guess pause never
came off.
Yeah.
Still time.
Adam mixed and mastered the song that I wrote for me and Rose Cousins, and we're still in touch. And he's in Calgary now, and my brother and I work on the scores all the time together still. So we never really disbanded.
So really and truly, Mir is still there.
It still exists, yeah.
And who knows? Maybe with a little prod.
Well, it's funny. I put up my solo recording in 2013. Part of the reason as well that I didn't really pursue touring is because when our daughter was 2 years old, she got diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And she's doing great, and we were very lucky that she got on a pump very soon before she was 3. And if diabetes, you have to monitor everything that goes in, because type 1 diabetes means the pancreas shuts down. That's
completely. Yeah.
And it just goes to sleep, and so any little bit of juice or whatever, you've got to compensate. So I was either going to leave my wife to do that all by herself when I went away on these big stretches of touring and trying to climb the rock and roll ladder, or I could go, oh wait, I can stay here and I can keep taking these film things because it's still creative. You're still creating music, and your music is being heard by people, and that's kind of how the band sunsetted, and then the film scoring kind
Well, I
of
think
rose up.
any of us with families and that, we're going to identify with
Yeah.
exactly what you did.
Yeah. And it's funny because you realize there's some incredible musicians who are still doing it. That have families, and Dave Gunning, for example, wonderful guy. Such a hard worker, so talented, and tours and has to leave.
His newest album actually has a song on it about all the time that he spends away from home,
right?
And what it means to his family. And that I've known Dave for a good many years, and you're right. I mean, there's probably not too many people that work as hard as him and JP on the road.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, they're constantly gone, and but Dave's really blessed too because he's got an amazing family. His wife is very supportive, and his boys. I mean, his boys just love him. So
and he's just a great guy.
And let's face it, if anything ever happens to him that he can't sing,
right.
The dirty bugger can be a stand-up comedian, hands down, right? Like I don't know too many people. I mean, I did comedy for 9 or 10 years, and I mean, I don't hold a candle to him.
And his new albums.
You never had
new
to
albums.
speak.
Yeah, I just had to stand there. And his new album.
His new album's great. I like this. I heard a track from it, and he's got a great studio up there too. Yeah.
Yeah, and what I like about this one is it's a little bit different.
Right.
He did one there last year with JP called 2, and this newest thing is I love the way they recorded it with the mics in the room.
Yeah.
Made it old style and took all the real hard depth out of it and just made it nice and soft and easy.
Some of those albums that are recorded that way are so nice.
Yeah.
Even Nora Jones, it was recorded with not a lick of reverb or compression.
Yeah.
Or anything, just straight mics into.
So now you're doing the movie scores.
Yeah.
But then you got another little project that you kind of got going on.
Well, so like I said, doing film and TV stuff, music is creative, and you get to meet. It's another side of the industry. It's kind of a whole other gang, right? And you know, when you spend pretty much all your life from the age of 17, 18 on stage, playing, touring, being in a van, you know, just spending time on the road, you kind of miss that. You crave the
energy that
comes with it. Even though I used to say when I came back from tour that the 45 minutes on stage was the only reason I did it.
Yeah.
Because the other 23 hours and 15 minutes were just not fun.
Not fun at all.
But then once it's gone, you go, oh wait, yeah, some of the best conversations I had was sitting on an airplane or sitting in a tour bus or whatever, and I kind of wanted to do something. And I when I put my album out, the solo one, I kind of thought, well, I did that now, and I want to do something else. I've got more songs. But I hadn't really, because of staying and doing the film thing, I wanted to collaborate a bit more with some of the people I was starting to miss in the scene.
Let's stop you right there. Let's go and have a couple more tunes right here in the Wolf's Den on CIOE 97.5 and Hidden Gems Broadcasting. And we'll come back with Asif, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this just before we wrap up, because I really, really want to hear about this.
You take 2 steps down and another one back. You're running out of fuel and the wheels are flat. And the weight of the world is just too much. If they knock you down, you just gotta get up. And keep moving, just keep moving. You just keep moving, you gotta keep moving. You just keep moving, you keep moving. You just keep moving, you just keep moving. You're closer to the goal every step you take. You never know what's coming every day you wake up. If talk said life's what you make it.
Welcome back to the Wolf's Den, ladies and gentlemen. We're having a ball here today with Asif from Mir. And Asif, let's just continue with right where we were just a second ago.
Yeah, so I was just saying that we wanted to collaborate and just be around these musicians and do stuff. But more importantly, like I think with my daughter's condition and so making the decision to stay put, you also miss seeing the world. Like you also miss the concept of playing music in different places. And I happened to be sitting in front of my computer in our office, and there was a flight simulator open. Like it was just something I've always been into airplanes since I was tiny. Like my dad used to work at Heathrow Airport and England, and ever since airplanes were a big thing for me. So I had a flight simulator just sitting on the office computer, and my friend Darren and I were trying to come up with something. Like, what are you going to do next? He said you should do like some sort of. You've got all these crazy hobbies, your train sets and whatever. Like do a show where you're cooking chicken curry with Ria May or something. Because I had knew all these musicians, but
yeah.
And then I thought, that's kind of silly. And then I looked at I had just seen comedians in cars, the Jerry.
Oh
Seinfeld.
yeah.
And then I sort of had this light bulb moment, like, well, what if I did like comedians in cars? And he's like, yeah, that'd be cool. I said, but what if we did it in an airplane? And then he said, what are you talking about? How are you going to do that? I said, well, we could use a simulator, and I could build a set here, and we could invite people in and interview, and we could fly around the world to where they've toured and talk about road stories. And that's how it started. Wow. So and then it kind of like, I just went to Home Depot and got a bunch of that white plumbing pipe and started making a frame to look like the windows of and just a quick aside, about a year before then, a fish tank, because I had a saltwater fish tank, it broke above the studio.
Oh!
And it rained salt water on the Shire. And the insurance was great because the insurance adjuster happened to be an ex-saltwater marine enthusiast.
Oh,
so
wow.
he used to have dreams
Of this happening
for
nightmares.
him. Nightmares. And he said, you know what, just do what you have to do, we'll take care of you. But I had a whole bunch of monitors and equipment left over that, because as soon as that foul-smelling salt water touched it, the insurance said, no, that's electronics, you got to throw that away. But it was sitting there, so I had these extra monitors. So I set them all up with this plumbing pipe, and I was trying to build myself a simulator. And I went online going, I wonder if you can do this a little better. And a friend of mine, who I grew up with since I was 15, he's an industrial designer, and he said, let's do this right. So he went in his CAD CAM, we took real 737 cockpit plans, and then he figured out what 2x6s and 2x10s that we had to cut in what way, and we just built it from scratch. And then that became the set, and that was
Wow.
That's just something else. But I mean, hey, we've got the Wolf's Den and we've got we've got a living room, but I don't have a flight simulator. But holy cow, that's amazing.
It was amazing to see. Like you think of a crazy idea, and these days, if you think of a crazy idea, you can be guaranteed that someone else also is doing this.
Yeah.
Well, I'm pretty sure no one else is doing the music and the flight, but I was so surprised to see that there were hundreds and hundreds, if not a couple of thousand, around the world who had scale 1-to-1 Boeing 737 simulators in their houses.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's just communities.
Man.
That's 737B.
No, the Max.
No, that's good, because if it's the B, you want a grounder, buddy.
That's right. No, the ours was modeled after the 737-800. So the one that like Swoop flies.
Yeah.
That airline. And it was the workhorse for a long time before they came out with the Max.
Yeah.
We don't know what's going on with the Max
No,
yet.
I'll stick with the Airbuses. Thank you very much. I know the Airbuses work. The A320.
Yeah.
The A320.
There's a lot of talk actually about not jumping to conclusions about it, but it's better safe. Like in my opinion, it's just like there's only 24 in Air Canada
Yeah.
They've got hundreds of other
Yeah.
planes. Just
Yeah.
use the rest until they figure it out.
Yeah, we're flying away down south in April, and the very first thing I did last night after all this talk was going, I got online and checked out my tickets, and we're on the A380,
Right.
the Airbus, so
Yeah.
I'm
And
all
it's,
right.
and it's the odds have gone up for that aircraft, but in reality, it's not a big.
No, I mean,
Adjustment.
around the world, I think there's 300 of them.
Yeah,
Which,
Yeah,
when you
yeah.
consider about the amount of air.
But I mean, it's been adding up over the last 2
right.
months.
Yeah.
yeah,
Incidents.
yeah.
It's funny because anyway, this.
Yeah.
But so now, are you going to continue along with the flight deck?
Yeah, you know, it's a one-man show. I think, contrary to other, originally it was going to be kind of something in the studio, much like this, like just.
Yeah.
But when it became a flight simulator and it became a show where I had to create the illusion that we were going through all these, then I started having to get into the world of 3D arts, like rendering and figuring out how the outside external world looked, and skinning the aircraft and putting people's names on the side of computer graphics world, which is fascinating. I love it. That plus editing, plus doing the interviews, plus maintaining the simulator, all of that stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
It was just last summer. It was so overwhelming to do that I felt like, okay, I'll give it a couple of months break. In September, I was going to start it up again, but my wife had a retinal detachment, so it kind of put it on hold. And then Christmas came, and then this year now, she's still sort of recovering from that, and so I'm not saying I'm not doing it anymore, but it's just been one little thing after the life kind of. And when you're doing something as a passion project, and this year's been very busy with film scoring, so and producing, so it's there. The plane is not grounded.
Yeah.
So we've learned two very important lessons today here. Mir is not dead,
That's right.
and the plane is not grounded.
That's not. No.
Asif, how can people find you? How can they get a hold of you?
So I have the .com, asifillyas.com, but probably easier is liveontheflightdeck.com.
Okay.
And that you can do a search for Asif Illyas, if you can spell it correctly, ASIFILLYAS. But if you just do that plus flight deck or Asif Illyas and music, and then luckily I've been around for long enough that the Google search now will give you something to be able to get in touch with me.
It will say yes. You can
It
find
says
it.
yes. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
as I know a lot of times stuff like that doesn't happen.
It helps having a unique name for the area. Although you will, there's a couple of artists in, but yeah, it gets live on the flight deck is there, and then the YouTube you can see the videos and whatever. So
Excellent.
oh, I'm sorry, I should say the actual official way to get in touch with me is theshire.ca.
Theshire.ca.
Yes,
I like that.
After the
Yeah,
Hobbit, Hobbit's home.
Yeah, and the fact that you call it the Shire and it's full of model trains, I really like
The
it.
Shire is because it always, to Rohan, my friend, the filmmaker, he always used to say, he went to Montreal to do films. He was there for a while. He said, no matter what's going on out there in these big cities, he always felt like when he came back to Nova Scotia that it was like coming back to the Shire.
Yeah,
And I thought that struck me because when you travel and you see the rest of the world and all the rat race, there's something just in the air that's calming. And I know things, it's becoming a bigger city and Halifax and all that, but there's just something about being able to drive 10 minutes and be in complete isolation.
yes, and in peace and tranquility.
And there's a vibe
You know,
there.
we may grow into a big city,
Right.
but Nova Scotia will always be
Always
a
be
small hometown places. That's
Always
all
be
it'll be.
the Shire.
Yeah. Asif, I don't know how to say thank you enough, my friend. Thank you so much for stopping in
Oh.
today. It's been a really, really, really
You're welcome.
really
It's
good
been a
time.
real pleasure. Thanks so
Yeah.
much for having me. Yeah.
Yeah, so ladies and gentlemen, as we always say here on the Wolf's Den, please, please, be nice to one another, be kind, and always, always, always hug the ones you love.
I can feel it in my bones. The struggle isn't over. It's getting harder to hold on. Can I cry upon your shoulder? And you know you're not alone. 'Cause I'm standing right beside you. We'll never be apart. I will never compromise you. And if it feels like the ride is gonna be a rough one, it'll be alright, as long as I can turn to you. It's a mad world, and I'm lucky to have somebody. Your love takes me home. Your love takes me higher. Open up your eyes, I can see that new horizon. Let a plane cut through a cloud, and let the rain fall down like diamonds. 'Cause after every storm, there is a sun that's shining. Just you wait and see. Our love needs no disguising. And if it feels like the ride is gonna be a rough one, it'll be alright, as long as I can turn to you. It's a mad world, and I'm lucky to have somebody. Your love takes me home. Your love takes me higher. Your love takes me home. Your love takes me higher. We can change our world, but there's gonna be resistance. So I need to let you know I'm here to go the distance. And if it feels like the ride is gonna be a rough one, it'll be alright, as long as I can turn to you. It's a mad world, and I'm lucky to have somebody. Your love takes me home. Your love takes me higher. Your love takes me home. Your love takes me higher. Your love, your love, your love, your love, your love, your love. Your love, your love, your love, your love, your love, your love.
Mr. Asif Illyas live in the Wolf's Den, ladies and gentlemen.
Once upon a time, I remember as a young child, I'd love to make new footsteps in freshly fallen snow. But now I am much older, a rifle on my shoulder. Every night I dream of the day that I'll go home. The Christmas bells are ringing and all the choirs are singing. But now I must go and do what I am told. For when the war is over and your arms are round my shoulders, I can call it Christmas time. Teach my baby girl how to give without receiving. Oh, and pray for all these children now without a home. All the needless spending, that's what I'm defending. Oh, there's no use in pretending. It's what we're fighting for. The Christmas Christmas bells are ringing and all the choirs are singing, but now I must go and do what I am told. For when there's no starvation and peace in every nation, we can call it Christmas time. Once upon a time, I remember as a young child, I'd love to make new footsteps in freshly fallen snow.